Sometimes we go above and beyond to take care of our clients. We create a really great program. We are so proud of our service and we get them the results they need, and still they feel unappreciated or not connected enough to you. And in time, when they continue to feel disconnected with you, they can turn into unhappy clients despite the fact that you got them a lot of results. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk you through how you can apply the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman to your business so you can facilitate better connections and relationships both with your clients as well as potential clients, as well as people you work with, and even in your personal relationships. Hello, and welcome to the Fast Forward Amy Show, the show where we talk about how you can lift your life and business with simple strategies. I'm Fast Forward Amy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode every Tuesday. A few years ago, actually not a few years ago anymore, I should say 10 years ago, I was living in Italy, and there I connected with a lot of really amazing people. I lived together with a guy from Sicily, Giuseppe, and also a girl or a woman from Amsterdam, namely Floor. To this day, Floor and I are still really amazing friends, and that was a really weird way to start my story by saying a few years ago, so like when I was 25 or something, I was driving my little Fiat 500 on my way to Amsterdam to go and visit her, and in the car drive over, I was listening to an audiobook because my Fiat doesn't drive super fast. I was listening to the audiobook to kill the time. The rain was pouring over the car and I was listening to this book, and I think someone had recommended it to me. And the book was called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And I almost fell out of my car listening to the book because I was like, oh my god, every single person needs to know about this book. To this day, I've been trying to convince my parents to listen to the book and my entire environment. I have not succeeded in my endeavor, but today I'm gonna just grab this opportunity of having my own podcast to tell you about the book. Not only are we gonna be looking at how the 5 love languages have helped me in my relationships with my parents, with my partner, and other people in my life, but also we're gonna be looking at how the 5 love languages can help you in communicating with your current clients or in actually selling to potential clients. Currently, I have a roster of over 400 active clients. I have 2 full-time teams. I am currently sitting in a studio with a bunch of people looking at my face, so you can assume that over the years I've had to build up some strategies to actually learn how to identify what is important for who, how to appreciate certain people, and make people feel connected even when you are not maybe present with them. You know, working online, how do you make sure there is a connection with your team? Having so many clients in a group program, how do you make sure they feel connected? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And first, we're going to start by looking at what are the 5 love languages. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. I think the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, has been translated in over like 70 languages or something. I highly recommend you go and read it. But today we're not going to go into the typical way of looking at the 5 love languages, but we're going to look at how is it applicable for you in your client relationships? How can you improve your customer experience through the 5 love languages? So the first love language is words of affirmation. By the way, they have a test where you can actually take the test to see which love languages are more or less applicable to you. I did the test a while back, and it turned out that my dad and I had like a 1% difference, and we scored almost the same way. And then my partner and my mom scored almost entirely the same way. So that was fairly funny. We have also created a guide for you with some actual examples of how you can use the 5 love languages in your business, and the link is fastforwardamy.com/love languages. So if you're interested in that and taking the test in that guide, we've linked everything up for you. So words of affirmation is actually my highest scoring love language, and it's all about words. No shit, Sherlock, I've been told my entire life I talk too much and I have a talk show. Literally. At one point when I was 4 or 5 years old, my brother Matthew actually took out this hourglass and he was like, okay, Amy, I'm gonna turn it around, and the entire time that the hourglass is still running, you need to shut up. And my mom also took me to the doctors, not to talk about the fact that I talked so much, but still she kind of like talked to the doctor like she will not shut up the entire day she's talking. That's also how I ventilate. That's how I connect with people. When I go through emotional stuff, I talk about it. I make a podcast about it. I call my best friend. I call like 10 people and we talk it through. So words of affirmation, not just talking about stuff, but also feeling appreciated is very important for me. Not only is it important for me, but it is really important for most people in my team too, because anyone who joins Team Fast Forward does the 5 love languages test, and there we've seen that the bigger part of our team all score really high on words of affirmation. So we've done this thing where in our wrap-up meetings, we will look at how can we show each other sincere appreciation, and we will point out a specific thing someone did and then tell them like, I appreciate you because you do this specific thing that tells me that you are, for example, loyal or trustworthy because you're always on time, and I super appreciate that. That's just a little example of how you can apply that to your like team relationships. But in my private life, for example, my boyfriend Charlie, he does not care whatsoever about words of affirmation. So I'll be like, yeah, good job, baby, you did that really well. And he'll not be telling me that. And I'm like, didn't I do a good job? Or please show me appreciation. But he will hug me and he will like just like rub my back or stuff like that. And he will show me in that way that he loves me and appreciates me. So if you're not communicating the same way, you're not talking the same language, it's really easy to feel unappreciated in a relationship. So what I've started doing is I realized it's really easy to give words of affirmation, but they might not register. So whenever I show my appreciation, I'll also touch him. This is a very specific example. I'll like rub his belly and be like, you did such a good job. This sounds really ridiculous, but it works because that's his way of connecting. I also know he feels disconnected when we don't spend enough quality time together, where we're actually doing something together, not just watching TV, or when there is not enough physical touch. For me, I like physical touch. I like it a lot. I like quality time, but I don't need it in order to feel loved. For me, they're more of a given. So I will not derive my own being loved by someone by the fact that I'm spending time with them or not. An example of that is, for example, my friend Floor that I was talking about earlier. I see her like once a year. Actually, she recently, a whole while back, she gave birth to a second child. I still have not seen the child. We rarely talk, but whenever we see each other, we have so much fun and we never feel unloved because the other person isn't responding or because we don't see the other person. Whenever we see each other, we just connect. I don't need the quality time together in order to know that I am loved by a certain person. But your clients might need it. So we looked at words of affirmation. I need a lot of words of affirmation. So please tell me I'm doing a good job and that you appreciate me. But with clients, you could be like, okay, how can you do that? That might be because your clients are sharing a certain win with you and you can actually reply to them through text like you did a great job. But maybe it might be better if you actually send them a short video, which would take you even less time than typing it out, and telling them how much of a good job they did. Or when someone says something in a group, you actually point it out, you have them talk about it, and then you affirm, with words. At the same time, we have words of affirmation. We also have gifts, and gifts is one of my biggest love languages. And also, I have a tendency to throw money at a problem and show my love that way. So I've been doing really well in my business. My business makes a lot of money. I also work hard for it, and I really love showering my family with gifts. But not everyone in my family feels like that is how they receive love. So again, my dad and I are the same way. So if we are like, I'm treating you to this thing, we like, oh, thank you so much for treating me to this thing. And like, you spent money on me and you gave me this gift, and I can be happy with that for like weeks. I love it when I get gifts. Doesn't matter how much they cost, just the gift giving for me is more fun even than receiving, but I also really love receiving. But someone else might not place any value on that. So for example, I will go out with my cousin and be like, I want to treat you to this thing. I want to buy a bottle of champagne. And she might not like that I do that. She might be like, I just wanted to spend quality time with you and I don't care if you want to pay for it or not. Just a small example. She cares about spending the quality time. She doesn't really care about getting a gift or giving a gift in that moment. With your clients, well, what we've done, actually you can see them here. we, at the end of our Business Freedom Elevator program last year, we sent out mugs, and it cost us thousands and thousands of euros to send over 400 people these mugs. But we sent out these mugs and they said "Hoe bezig" in Dutch, which means like you're doing a great job. On the one hand, it says that, and on the other hand, on the other side, it actually says Business Freedom Elevator, our logo. And people use those, sometimes even on a daily basis. It cost us a lot of money to send those out, but it was my way of making sure that the people who have the gifts love language feel especially appreciated. And obviously we all have all of these love languages inside of us, but it really helps when you actually can just like over deliver. Like, no one asked for the mugs, we just sent it out without even telling them they were getting it, and to this day I see people using them every day, so that's really nice. And if, for example, a certain client wasn't connecting with you on the calls, they might feel more connected because they get a gift. It might just be how they operate. They might be extra sensitive to that. So we had the words of affirmation, then we had gifts, and then we have quality time. I already touched on it earlier. For example, in your relationship, you might not need a lot of time together, but you might need to have really good conversations. I know I feel super connected to the people in my life when I can have a really good talk, but I don't need to see them always, for example. You might be different. You might find that you cannot connect unless you are in the same room. I think in the last year we saw a lot of that. The quality time is really important for a lot of people. Now with your clients, that might be that some of your clients have more of a need to connect longer or be more present with you than others. So you could install a happy hour with your clients. I'm currently looking at how we can do that. So we have coaching calls, but some people don't necessarily want to learn from me. They just want to spend time with me. And that is how we can facilitate better client relationships. Now, we want to make sure that in my business, it's not always me doing a certain thing, but it's about connection in our entire tribe, you know? So what we did is we installed these coffee chats where our clients can connect with each other. Not all of our coaching clients are present there, but the ones who are present feel really connected with each other because they are spending quality time together, they are connecting, and that's their way of, I'm not saying their way of feeling loved, although it's about the love languages. I feel like we're also talking about how to feel appreciated and connected, because that's all part of the same thing, no? So we had words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, and quality time could also be coming back in your sales, for example. Maybe someone is super convinced that they want your program, they want to buy your service, they're almost ready. They just need 5 minutes with you to be like to get over the fence. They just need that time. They don't even need your words or you convincing them. They just need 5 minutes to be like, okay, I can trust that this is the right decision for me. So we had those first three, and then we have physical touch. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to do that with your clients. I think that's illegal. Physical touch does not need to be sexual behavior. Let me make that clear. It can just be for me with my team, for example. I didn't see them for the longest time because of all of the regulations. But I noticed that when we have a launch day and someone is working really hard on their computer and they, I don't know, like they're working and I'm doing something else and I walk by them, and one of my instincts will be to show them love by like touching their back, for example, because it's like a different way, a non-verbal way of letting them know, like, I see you, I appreciate you, I know you're working hard and you're doing a great job, with just one simple touch. So I think we all have these different tendencies. You have people who are totally not touchy-feely, but what the important part here is to know that different people will show you their love in a different way, and you want to make sure that it's matched, because you might be looking at, this client got everything I promised in the program and still they're unhappy. They might not be unhappy with the program or the results. They might just not be feeling seen or heard, and you might be able to fix that with these things. So physical touch in an online program might be very difficult, but what you could do is you could look at your gifts and you could look at, how can I make that a feast for the senses? For example, how can you make sure that the gift, the mug, is something they can actually hold and use? Maybe there's something inside of the mug that smells a certain way. Like, the different senses is also something you could try stimulating through the love language of physical touch. In my opinion, this is not from the book, by the way. I'm just saying how I have interpreted all of this. Because let's be honest, who has ever finished a book on self-development? Not me, 80% of the time. I've never finished this book. But Carrie, I love you and your book. Words of affirmation, see? Now the last one is actually my partner's favorite way of showing love. And I think our online business manager, Caroline, scores high on this too, namely acts of service. I don't have this in showing love. I do love it when people do stuff for me. So Charlie will be doing a bunch of stuff for me, and I'll be telling him he's doing a good job, and both of us will feel super unappreciated. So I need to go and spend quality time with him, hug him, touch him, and he needs to tell me that I'm doing a really great job. And he can't even tell me in a text. I need to hear it, actually, the words of affirmation. So you see how that works with your clients. I think acts of service just means going above and beyond. For example, in our business, we have an amazing customer service. Anyone who's ever lost a login or didn't know where their invoice was, whatever, has emailed team@fastforwardamy.com. Our amazing customer service team with Elise has probably responded really quickly, and people feel really supported by our customer support team. At the same time, in our Business Freedom Elevator, we have a support group where if you can't find something, we'll help you out, we'll respond. The entire tribe of the Business Freedom Elevator students will help each other out, and that is how acts of service can also come to be. I'm certain that when you run an in-person offline business, it's much easier to implement these different love languages, but what's been the key is really, if you feel like you are missing a connection with your clients, like I just said, you're like, but I did everything I set out to do, but they're missing the connection, or you're missing a connection, you can now check in like, why is that? Is it a love languages thing? Most of the time it is like that. With kids, it's the same way. I can really tell that I have plus kids, I can tell that they have different needs in terms of how they will give love and receive love. And often they copy a lot of what their parents do. So I think it's so interesting. The moment you know it, you cannot unknow it. And if you're ever in a conversation with a client, or let's say you're at a network event, it can also be a really funny exercise when you're working with people to try to discover, without actually asking them, which love languages they score high on. I know, for example, my brother and his girlfriend, they really value gifts, and I always forget to send them a gift because they don't live in the country, and I really appreciate gifts and I love giving gifts, but sometimes I'm just not organized enough for it. But I know that for them, it's really, really important. So from now on, I've decided I'm going to make an extra effort to make sure that they really feel seen and heard and connected and respected and loved, because I will send them really amazing gifts on time. I just sent them an Apero box. So I felt proud of that. And I like giving that. So yeah, I think it's really nice to look at how you can use this in sales, in client relationships, in team connection with your own spouse or children or parents. It cracks me up when I see my parents not realizing what they do. Love you, mom and dad, but you should really listen or read the book. Listen to the book or read the book, because it's an amazing book. So yeah, sometimes in business, I think you gotta be a chameleon to understand other people's needs, and that is how you can grow. We don't grow by doing what we do, we grow by accommodating our clients' needs while also staying authentic in our own business. So if you're interested in how you can apply this even more in your relationships and in your client relationships, we've prepped a guide for you alongside a link of the test that you can go and take to see which percentages are your scores. And you can find that through fastforwardamy.com/love languages. I think especially, well, in any type of relationship, this is gonna come up. So I would say this is something you can't unknow, and you better get started knowing it. And talking about that, in 2 weeks, our Business Freedom Elevator pre-order is opening up on July 28th. If you've been on the wait list, please make sure you pay very, very, very good attention to what's coming up, because we will only have 100 spots opening in pre-order on Wednesday 12, like at noon exactly. There will be 100 spots, and usually they sell out very quickly. So make sure you're on the waitlist through fastforwardamy.com/elevator. And there you will get an email about July 28th when we open up the pre-order, and there you can join. So if you've been feeling like, yeah, Amy, I hear you about the love languages, but I'm not good at actually getting clients. I'm doing a lot of intake calls, but they're not buying. People are emailing me, but they're not responding, or they're not even emailing me, and I just spend a lot of money on a website, but it's not converting. The Business Freedom Elevator is going to help you with sales, but also with feeling overworked and overwhelmed. We're going to help you by not just creating your first product, maybe online, for example, but also looking at how you can launch it. We're going to look at your content marketing. We're going to do all of the things that are going to turn your brand into a successful and a profitable brand. So if you're interested, go to fastforwardamy.com/elevator, and I would love to see you as part of the first 100 people to get in at a €500 discount. Have a happy day and talk to you next week, Tuesday.